Max Verstappen wins the 2022 World Championship again in his home race. It's getting to a point now where he could almost take the rest of the season off and still win the championship. Ferrari go full Ferrari again, and George Russell ends up on the podium. G'day there, my name is James Baldwin. Welcome to another episode of Lakeside Drive's F1 podcast. In this episode, we're reviewing the Dutch Grand Prix. Joined by my friends and yours, Tommy T. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And Thomas J. Camp.
Gentlemen, how are we?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much
for
asking.
Are you well?
We are well, and of course, produced, as always, by the very handsome...
The one and only.
What's your name again, sorry?
G'day, this is Ezekiel Thomas Fenn. How's it going, everyone?
Mate, where were you Sunday morning to I don't know, what do you do?
What do you do?
Produce.
Good. It's going well.
I couldn't breathe Sunday morning. I was that hungover.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
I did re-listen to that podcast this morning. Wow, we are exceptionally both very flash. I think both very hungover as well, although I didn't have an excuse for a wedding. So there is that. Look, guys, the Dutch Grand Prix, the worst track on the calendar, and China is a better track. What are your thoughts?
Very xenophobic of you. And I've mentioned this already. You just hate the Dutch.
You want an HR department. You have a request.
I feel like it should be Munnis, if anyone. He's very neutral. I'd back him in over you, that's for sure.
I was so bored by lap 28, whatever. I went to bed and rewatched the highlight. Just before Yuki had his issue is when I went to bed.
I reckon it got exciting about lap 30.
Yeah, just after I went to bed. Yeah, because I rewatched it, and to be fair to Zandvoort, it actually stepped up. And it was really good.
Cracking track. Those helicopter views are just what you want.
So long as you can see.
It looks great.
I could watch the whole race on helicopter view if I could just scan between the battles that I wanted to watch. It'd be awesome.
Great. All right. Well, there you go.
The eye in the sky himself. That's what we need.
F1 TV director right here.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
No,
it wouldn't be great at all, would it? No, absolutely. Well, look, a massive thank you to you if you've become a Patreon recently, or patron rather recently, that you guys are legends. Seriously, unbelievable the amount of the people who want to support the show. Thank you for that. And thank you for buying merchandise as well. A couple of you have done that recently too. So there'll be some more merch designs probably that will happen at some point with Tommy T when we get designing it. Now, look, we've been pretty negative about this whole thing.
Us.
And when I say we, I mean myself. And I need to pull myself out of this rut.
The royal we, meaning you.
Thank you. Exactly right. Thank you. That's a good laugh. Also, I think maybe I should just run through the soundboard for everyone's affairs. Here we go.
This is the most you thing ever. This is just for James.
This is just for me, just so everyone's aware. Also, with the podcast stewards, I should also run this out too. Ezekiel Fenn here in the corner is the podcast steward. Now, we're not doing this live at the moment. We will get to a point. But
he's not even listening to us. But he's sick of your voice. Listen to music. He ain't going to be a steward.
He gets to hand out penalties. And if you do get a penalty, you get your mic turned off for a period of time. And if it's a stupid penalty request, then you get your own mic turned off. Anyway.
The most downloaded episodes of me and you, Tommy, so...
Based purely on absolutely no fact whatsoever. Absolutely no fact. Anyway, whatever. I'll run through the soundboard through the show as we go along. But I love that there was 50% of the audience who loved my excessive use of soundboard, specifically that sound effect, and 50% was like, please stop. Please put yourself in the bin. No, I'm not going to.
Annoying actor kid in class who's just too creative for his own good. That can't sit still, that everyone really dislikes until he gets somewhat. I don't know.
It's him. He just grew up.
At least the actor kid knows how to use a microphone properly rather than inhaling it. Oscar Piastri is... Oh, good Lord. Oscar Piastri is...
That visual. No one needs that.
Show some bloody respect.
Seriously, Laminado, you're absolutely correct. Look, I want to talk about Oscar Piastri in a positive light, gentlemen.
Can we stop talking about this now? Like,
you don't want to talk about Oscar Piastri?
We've had three podcasts we've talked about him. Who cares?
about Oscar Piastri?
Awesome. He's got a seat next year. Wicked.
Excellent.
Move on.
Fantastic. Good. Thanks very much for ruining that segment.
Yep.
Let's move on then to,
Check.
I guess, Campy's Discord comment of the week.
Now it's time for the Discord comment of the week.
You know what's just happened? Actually, we've just replicated Ted and Crofty, except I was able to move on
I think
very
Campy
quickly.
forgets that not everyone's going to listen to just his bloody podcast. Some people are just going to skip that because they want to listen to me and you.
We'll come back to it. This is my favorite, Beefcake Mega on Sainz's pit stop. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that looks good. Wait, we need how many tyres? Yeah, 4. Rear left as well. Ferrari just... honestly, are they any of them paying attention at any point through a race weekend? Seriously, it's embarrassing. Hey, Tommy T, do you want to talk about Oscar Piastri?
I do a little bit.
Excellent. No one cares about Oscar Piastri, though, right, Campy?
Oh, I'm sick of having this conversation.
I'm with you there.
It.
It is a lot, but a lot of it has been out of his control. Now we actually have something to report on. He's got to drive. It's going to be exciting. We can't wait to see him in a car.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2 Australians in F1, which will be great for all of us.
And if not, we've still got an Aussie in F1, right?
Yeah.
The positive out of this is Oscar Piastri gets to join the grid. And you're right, we haven't spoken about that. We did on Sunday, but show some
bloody respect.
Campy at Tommy T. You've got to think about it as a positive way, because it is very easy to be cynical, as we have said about Formula One time and time again. And anyway, I think the way that the media has spun it's been pretty unfair towards Oscar. There was, as we said yesterday, a really great article on F1.com, and if you haven't yet read that article with Lawrence Barretto, chatting with Oscar Piastri, it was very, very good indeed. All right, well, let's do this. Please God, what the hell is going on in Sky at the moment?
It was odd, wasn't it? It was odd.
Worse than odd.
I think my biggest takeaway was I don't agree with throwing flares on the track, but you know what I hate even more is the way the British feel like they need to scold the rest of the world like it's still the Crusades and they're in charge of the entire world. Just settle down. People celebrate in different ways. You aren't the kings of the universe. Just relax. They were like scolding children. It was like a principal coming in and going and giving people like the bloody strap. Just settle down. You're not in charge of the entire world.
The Euro's crazy.
That was my bloody hot tip there, wasn't it? I just went off.
The hot tip.
You did.
The Euro's crazy. It's their God-given right to buy flares and let them off. The States has fireworks. Australia, we got nothing because we're shit.
I agree that they should just set off as many flares as they want. At the end of the day, they smell terrible, they taste terrible, and it gets in your face. But I mean, throwing flares onto the track, dumb,
stupid.
Don't do that. But everything else, let off as many as you want.
Yeah, and it's like F1 decided midway through the weekend, flares are illegal now. Make sure you don't throw them.
I love it at the gate.
Why weren't they illegal
The
before
original
that?
sign at the gate was, please hand your flares in at the gate.
Yeah.
Please check your flares. Yeah, no worries, guys.
Righto.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. But yeah, this David Croft, Ted Kravitz thing. Now, that was
a bit of a power dynamic, I think. Maybe Ted's trying to vie for his job and just going, you know what? You're useless at the moment. I'm going to take over and tell you when you should be talking and when you should not.
Ted wants a promotion from the pits. He wants to get up into the air-conditioned studio.
So he doesn't wear shorts all the time.
yeah, and he's that bloody headphone in the mic pack. I imagine that's not a light situation he's got going on. But it was quite odd because he wanted to do the right thing, right? Nothing was happening on track. So he's like, well, let's take the break now, come back, and we can...
In practice, are we talking about?
Yeah. And the way that Crofty dealt with it was poor at best.
Child.
Yeah. Oh, you know, you're producing the show now, are you, mate?
TV. I'll give them. Who cares?
Yeah, live TV is hard. Like, we'll give them that, but don't be the petulant child that you are.
Yeah.
And just kind of like roll with the punches. Yes, and add, like, let's do this.
It was just very bizarre. We pay for this.
You know what is true, though? When Nico Rosberg is on the broadcast, whether he's there or he's dialed in from his yacht, he's a dickhead, and we should never see him on the TV ever again.
I messaged this to the group, though. I think it's better when he's remote because there's less of him.
Yeah.
Because they don't go to him constantly. It's like they throw to him for a minute segment at a time, and that's all you get, rather than just constant Nico white shoe wearing, whatever pants situation he's running usually on the grid, which I think you're trying to emulate when you get onto the grid, isn't that right, James?
So his YouTube channel, I'll look at the boat I'm buying. It's like, you, mate. I don't care about your boat. And he does it in English and German, so he records everything twice. A real squid.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
True.
Recording things twice is stupid.
Oh, wow. That is outstanding by you, Campy. That's the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
I've not even met him, and I'm off him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Anthem.
I was going to say, that's the next part we have to get to.
Anthem.
The Anthem.
Yeah.
Oh, she was 10.
Who, sorry?
She was 10.
The Anthem was 10
Yeah,
out of
the
10.
Anthem was 10
The
out of
Anthem was
10.
10 out of 10. That's what I thought you said.
Show some bloody respect.
Thank you, Laminato. Yes. Look, I guess it was okay. I don't know.
Not a fan?
It's Dutch, so
You just don't like Dutch.
just leaning into it.
Just-
I can foresee the text messages from you and Freya afterwards. Although, what did she say in Dutch on
Then you can't enjoy our cheese. Which is excellent from her.
Very good. I couldn't be bothered using translate, so I figured I was like, let's ask the other Dutchie.
They have good cheese.
Do they have good cheese in the Netherlands?
Do you?
Just the Dutch and just dairy farmers.
What is going on in this
general.
episode?
I know nothing about the joint. I love the orange.
Windmills. That's about it.
Do you
Isn't
mind?
it the Netherlands?
It's all three things.
Oh,
Dutch
make
live in
up
the
your mind.
Netherlands.
It's like being married. Having a conversation 3 times, getting 3 different answers. The hot tip.
Is that your marriage hot tip for the weekend?
No. Move on.
Uh,
This is a disaster.
what is going on
This
with
is a
you?
mess.
What have you?
4 blokes in a room. This is just disastrous.
That's outstanding. What I was going to say was for you, not that I've asked for a score, but because Jensen was on commentary, surely it pushes it up to a
Way
10.
better. He's outstanding.
Yeah.
Anytime Jensen's there, I thought for a minute we were going to have to deal with Paul DeResta because he was kind of on the pre-show. I was like, oh no, please don't. I thought Jensen was around. And then Jensen came, I was like, thank you. That's exactly what we want because he's excellent.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not understands how to sort of get in the driver's mind still. Doesn't say weird things like Rosberg does and doesn't constantly remind us that he... Did you know that he beat Lewis Hamilton in the same machinery? For a
You're
world
kidding.
championship?
When?
Like, unbelievable. I couldn't tell you. Wasn't paying attention. But it wasn't too bad from a broadcast point of view. The helicopter shots, were
Pretty epic.
pretty epic. This track looks epic and the way where it's actually located is good. All right. So overall, television broadcast, not such a bad thing. All right, Campy. Oh, God, press it twice.
It's Campy's bin.
Who's in your bin for this
Actually,
week?
not him. just mucking
Ferrari
around.
strategy crew.
It's a fair call.
It's a great call.
Do they have a strategy crew
Oh.
at this point?
Oh,
Seriously.
how was it when Perez ran over the gun too and they were trying to replace the gun? Couldn't get the air
Airlines off. Yeah.
pressure off. Oh, jeez, I was laughing. Italians.
Man.
What do? They build cars and motorbikes that are like 95% there. They just can't find that last 5% to win anything.
I think it's like, it just goes back to that old Top Gear skit. If they just bugger off and go have lunch or just do something else, don't they? They just get nearly, we're nearly done. Like, it's only like a half an hour job. We'll just do that tomorrow, right?
It's like Alfa Romeos. They just break somewhere all the time.
That's very
Yeah.
true. Yeah. It's an odd situation because, again, it just becomes... I mean, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc have to be looking at their situation going, there is just legitimately no way that I'm ever winning a world championship with this team.
But the machinery and stuff's there. This is the people part of it. Behind the scenes, like it's screwing it up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as a package, Red Bull is an amazing racing outfit. As a package, Mercedes, even though George made the strategy call, not Lewis, or not the team necessarily, and that's whatever. I mean, fair enough. Fair play for George for doing that. There's still a team that know how to win. Ferrari's still making mistakes, like rookie mistakes, like leaving the wheel gun out. Like, seriously, for that, honestly, it boggles my mind that this team that has so much control over this sport is doing so many rookie mistakes. Anyway, I cannot understand what is going on over in Ferrari. Look, let's go through team by team analysis. If you want to listen to our qualifying chat, Campy's Corner, excellent artwork by you, by the way, across everything.
What'd you think, Campy?
Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
Respect.
Did you see the in the background on the right hand side?
Yes, I
There's-
saw the bin, mate. And I said,
Not the
"Can
bin.
you-"
The bin. It's a
wallpaper.
subtle wallpaper. There's an American flag subtly
Yeah.
in
See
the.
that?
Oh, look
Some
how
stars and
subtle it
stripes
is.
back there.
Ah,
Gotta
let
do
me
it.
check this out. Hang on. I was watching
Open your
this-
iPad.
I I was watching myself before on YouTube. I was like,
You would be watching yourself on YouTube, mate.
Oh, good. This is great content. Luckily, we're filming this. I hope you're all enjoying this.
Why is there shorts on? Oh, I like that. Well done.
Why are there shorts on me? That's the comment of the week. All right, let's go through our team-by-team analysis, shall we, lads? Let's start, unfortunately, at the very back of the pack with Alfa Romeo. Now, Valtteri Bottas hasn't been knocked out of Q1 basically since Williams. And then twice in a row was very disappointing for him. Alfa Romeo, he just couldn't quite get it together this weekend. Campy, obviously he had his failure down that main straight. The Ferrari power unit sounded very, very sick, didn't it, as he shifted out?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. He, again, but they're a team that I don't really follow at the moment. I'm stoked for VB. He's got a drive for 2 years. He seems to be in a really happy place personally. But the results aren't coming at the moment. But that's sort of traditionally how Alfa Romeo and Sauber have come. They come out of the blocks really hard, really good, solid base to the car, but then they lack the resources that other teams have to get massive upgrades. And as the season goes on, they drop off. For them, it's the first half of the year you look at and you go, okay, that's great. And then because of reality, they have to move on and look towards next year's car. So it's a shame for Valtteri, but yeah, it's a Ferrari power unit, right? It's just a dud. It's the least. Sorry, it's not a dud. It's the least reliable power unit on the grid.
We're just not seeing a lot of them to really comment, really, are we? Like you saw the engine fat. That was the first time I'd seen VB that whole entire race. Like he's just cruising around at the back and just Alpha have really dropped this year.
Do you remember last year we had to keep reminding people and each other that Antonio Giovinazzi was in the Grand Prix?
It's now VB.
It's exactly. Maybe it's the team. Maybe the TV director. Maybe you should be the TV director, Campy. The TV director is just allergic to showing Alfa Romeo Saubers.
Yeah. Yep. I'd leave all the British drivers off as well. How good would that be?
Good luck.
That would be great.
Who's George Russell? Lando who? Lewis
Russell
what?
George. Yes, representing a German team. Zhou Guanyu. Now, this is a seat that is open for next year still. By all accounts, it's pretty much guaranteed that he's going to remain there. We spoke last week about Teo Kacher potentially coming in because he's a Sauber junior. But Sauber, he said to Sauber he's not doing Formula 2 next year. And I imagine Sauber's going to say, okay.
Cool.
Great.
Go to Formula E.
Do you want to be a reserve driver? Well, I mean, they don't have
or
a team.
DTM.
This is the thing. Like, where else does Sauber have race cars? It's not Formula E, not any other single-seater series from what I know.
And Formula E's maxed out their grid too, so they're not dropping drivers like they were and then trying to find new ones. It's not like there's open seats there either. So these young kids are going to come out of F2 and F3 and struggle to find drives, like really good drives if they're not cutting it.
Yeah, well, unless you're McLaren, in which case I imagine there's 17 people who've been signed for the one seat that's left remaining for them for next year. But Zhou Guanyu is, again, we still don't see a lot of him, but when we do see his wheel-to-wheel battles, his situational awareness is like really good.
Well, he was in the junior formulas for how long? Like he was there for
True.
a while. So he's quite a veteran for a rookie F1 driver. He's been driving for a long time. He's a really good driver. But this is the pinnacle as we talk about, and this is the 20 best drivers in the world. I don't know if he's in that category, you'd say.
Yeah, I think
he's done enough for me.
I was going to say,
and next year we will go to China as a racetrack, so that will be the weekend that he brings in all the money and every bit of value. One race every 2 years for him, more than enough. That'll just be everything that Chinese market wants and needs. So
plus, I think he's just such a nice guy. Like, genuinely,
yeah.
I would love to chat. Maybe I should reach out to Alfa Romeo Sauber and see if we can get him on for a chat, because that would be like genuinely one of like the first driver that we talk to. I think that would just be a really cool thing to do, because he seems like a really authentic guy, like this podcast, like you, Campy. He's such an authentic guy.
Thanks, mate.
You're welcome. Let's keep going. Let's talk about us.
You need to just leave that with a laugh. That was way better.
Sorry, I can't control myself. Mick Schumacher. We're in a mood, unfortunately. Zeke and I were in a mood. You've been neutral. Campy's come in from
I walked into this podcast studio and it is a weird energy. I can tell you that.
It's good. I like it. Weird energy is better than being remote. Mick Schumacher. great qualifying. Campy, super good qualifying, but not really the performance that he was hoping for. We were all hoping for.
He's a bit like Mark Webber off the start line, isn't he? Just fails to get going.
Yeah.
I think he dropped back 4 positions on lap 1 back to P10 or P11. So that was a shame. And the car didn't have the pace over the race distance. I thought if he had got a good start, put himself up there, he may have been able to get the gap like Lando did to the rest of the field, that he could sort of stay there the rest of the race, but the pace just wasn't in the car from the get-go. It's a shame for him because he is on the nose somewhat at Haas. They don't really want to keep him. He does have value in the sport. I think it's easy to give him one more year in the perspective of Formula One going for the next 150, 200 years. Give him another year to see where he gets to, but who knows where he is.
Yeah.
Well, I think Zandvoort as well with the extended DRS didn't do him any favours. I think maybe last year's kind of DRS zones, he might have been able to hang on to his position because it was so hard to follow, but that was just enough this year for them to get past on turn 1. So I think that really ruined him, and his poor start, really, to be honest.
It was
qualified well.
He did qualify well, and it was good to hear his positive radio messages after his qualifying session too. God, we just don't hear enough of his mechanic on the broadcast anymore. Glenn, I think.
It's like a lullaby.
Yeah, seriously.
Just
Just
stories.
anytime, anything he wants to read out. He could read out the entire regulations of Formula One, actually, and he'd make it interesting. K-Mag, though, 15. Now, this is not someone who is who's putting in a drive for their seat for next year. K-Mag absolutely shone at the beginning of this year, and, of course, the upgrades that were brought for Haas, the first upgrades was only in Hungary. So this is the third race since bringing those upgrades that they're able to sort of dial it in. As I said on your episode, Campy, that this was the most akin to Hungary downforce-wise, so they could see what sort of upgrades they're using. But I wonder if we've sort of seen the same with Alfa Romeo, that these junior Ferrari teams, for want of a better term, are coming out, or customer teams rather, coming out strong because of the power unit was so much stronger than the Red Bull powertrains, because of course it's been such a long season. We forget that we had some issues with Max and Checo early on, which allowed, obviously these Ferraris to finish where they did. But they're just not developing that pace like Mercedes clearly is doing so, and the Red Bull powertrain unit. So it's a shame that these are now the two teams towards the back, because it's kind of like copy-paste from last year. I was really hoping at least one, like Haas, Haas would be the team sort of fighting for fourth, like fighting McLaren and Alpine properly, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Which is disappointing.
Yeah. It was a very scrappy race from K-Mag, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
He was all over the place. That save that he had, though, when he actually hit the barrier early on, I think it was lap 1, lap 2.
Yep.
Great save to do that, but it was also, while we were in that situation, it was because he was trying to wring the neck of the car and really get more out of it early on for track position. But I think the problem is these teams are still on the back end of funding and kind of engineering and kind of team development. So it makes sense that later in the season that they're dropping off.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very fair call. Williams, however, seem like, and look, Albon finished 12th, but Albon's pace at the moment is bloody good. Now, he's a good driver. What did you class him as a driver? B plus?
B. He's not a B plus for me.
We need to do this podcast where Campy goes through and gives us grades. I think Zeke's nodding over there. He's excited by this content.
Excited? Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yes, that's an affirmative.
Okay, so he's a B driver, but again, there's no pressure on him whatsoever. He's very happy that he's got a drive. He's been announced for next year. Jos Capito is doing great things with that team. They're making these very small steps forward, admittedly, but at least they're moving in the right direction.
Albon got the strategy right last night. He started on the hard. He's the only one in the back of that field to stay out late, and it put him in 5th to 6th position. I mean, he's in front of Lando after Lando's first pit stop. So Danny Rick was right behind him and in his DRS zone and decided to pit, and that was a nightmare. Yeah. He should have followed that same go along on the hard. That was the alternative option all day. And Williams was the only team that got it right. And kudos to him. He was able to jump those 4 or 5 annoying drivers like your Seb Vettels, your Magnussens and your Schumachers, and your Yuki Tsunoda. And he was able to jump those guys but going along in that first stint. So he got it right, but there's some pace in that car, particularly on a low down, very high downforce track. So good on him.
Yeah, it's like genuinely good to see Tommy T.
Yeah, we like Albon. We think he's a nice guy and he'd be a nice character to stay in F1, but Campy's spot on. And that's when Williams were doing good things last year with George, it was committing to alternative strategies, risking it all to try and get points and do those things. And that's what they've done again. So that's what they should continue to do, because head to head, you're not going to beat the top three teams. But if you go alternate strategy, you might luck into some heavy points or get that sneaky podium with a late safety car or something, or some rain or anything. If you're doing the alternative strategy and you're there to take it when it arises, that's how you're going to get those results.
It's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I asked you this question. In the trajectory section of a team that's right down the very back, and they end up coming towards at least the mid-pack, and my example was McLaren with Stoffel Van Dorn and Alonso flailing at the back. Williams are now in that sort of similar period of 2019 to what McLaren was doing. So Lando and Carlos starting to get some results. Obviously, they're not getting anywhere near a podium like Carlos did in Brazil, but they are starting to step forward. Do you think because of obviously the funding they've got and a driver like Alex Albon, do you think that at some point, maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, Williams won't be a team that is that Sergei Sirotkin, Kubica kind of
team it was of yesteryear?
Team of yesteryear, whereas actually like genuinely a play. Because imagine, I know we're not talking about the driver market thing, but imagine if at the moment for Daniel Ricciardo, the two options were Alpine or Williams, because they're both, fighting in that mid-pack.
They're a customer team. So history would suggest, in the way the sport's going, they're going to be, what they're fighting for in reality is the fifth best car on the grid. And that is, beating a McLaren, and then the Alpine and the four manufacturers ahead of them. They are on the right trajectory, and they would probably be getting some of the performances like your AlphaTauris did in the Honda last year, and some of the results that K-Mag got earlier in the year. This year, the difference is they were in the position to do that. This year, the position is that Mercedes engine was not very good from start to so they've come off this era where they've been so far behind, and they've clawed themselves back under Claire Williams to get to the point where, hey, they're actually competitive against a couple of cars on the grid. Now they're competitive against, genuinely 4 or 5 teams and the McLaren, or one of the McLaren cars anyway. But they just lack that extra push to jump up because of the engine that Mercedes have given at the moment.
Do you think and we love Gotifi here. He is the god of Formula One as far as many people are concerned. But do you think if they had a strong second driver as well, like an Alex Albon type, that you would maybe see a little bit more development of the car a little faster? Because it's interesting because we're talking a little bit like Alonso's really quick, but he's not good at developing a car. That was your point, which I agree with you on. Like you think about the Ferrari and you think about his time at Renault.
I'm not sure I completely agree with that, but
agree with your
own statement.
No, I've never said that I agreed with it, but that has been historically what people in the paddock have thought of him.
That's a penalty, Zeke.
And that's the way they've read into it. Go back
Your
and
Honour.
check that.
Present your case. Present your case. 25 words or
contradicted
less.
himself from a day ago.
You can't have a point and then completely change your
I
mind.
made that point, but I said the rap on him from some in the paddock has been this. I didn't say whether I believed it or not. If you chose to read the storyline history that way, it is a perspective you could look at it. It's not necessarily my perspective.
What are we requesting? How many seconds of a penalty?
It back, actually. He's kind of right. Redacted.
Okay. All right, redacted. Dear Michael, I sent you an email, but actually please disregard. We'll talk about it later after the event. Okay. Well, so then if the second driver, Alonso, if the second driver was Alonso, if the second driver was like Albon in the way that you could, so we would see the trajectory a lot faster. Okay. Yeah. So for next year then, it's pretty obvious that Latifi doesn't really have a tenable seat for next year. I mean, his performances are getting worse and worse. Poor bloke.
But how much is he paying? We don't know. Just say it's 20 million.
Okay.
That's bloody nice to a team like that.
It's a lot of Lavatzes.
that's 20%, about 12 and 13, maybe 14, 12.5% of their operating capital for the year.
Accountants here.
Just love it. Skipped 2 or 3%.
I know.
I'm doing the math mentally in my head, and it's about
We can see your eyes moving while you're thinking.
it's about 13, 20.
I can see the abacus moving behind the.
20 million of 150 as a percent is about 13.5, 14.
I can see the abacus moving behind. It's a comment of the year.
Jeez. Someone do that. Someone
Jeez.
figure out what that percentage
we don't
actually
care.
is.
It's a
let me know.
percentage.
What are
and
we
it's some.
talking about?
It's
I don't know.
significant, yeah.
Anyway, Williams.
I'm a
That's,
genius. I'm a maths genius.
Yeah.
Prodigy. The hot tip.
there it is. Very good. Okay, let's keep going then. AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda didn't have a wheel fitted properly, and then he did have a wheel fitted properly, and then his belts are loose, but his belts weren't loose. And then he
Crash
had
gate.
then he had a diff problem.
Crash gate.
Now,
Crash gate.
he didn't have a
That's-
diff problem, did he? Because he has to surely just make something up because he's like, I don't want to finish now. I'm 2 laps behind everyone else. Surely. Crash gate. Go on.
Look what happened. Look at the time in the race that happened. Max Verstappen was going to have to pit again.
Get
There
your
it
tinfoil
is.
beanies, everyone.
Max Verstappen was going to have to pit again. He was going to have to pass both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton on a new set of tyres, and he would have come out about 7.5 seconds behind them. And then that
And he would have
happened.
done it
No, he wouldn't.
easily.
No.
Yes, he would have.
Ah, bullshit.
So we had Checo spinning out in qualifying, and we had Yuki Tsunoda.
I'm telling you, that organisation as a Red Bull organisation worked out perfectly for Maximus.
You're off your head.
Crash gate. All over again.
No.
Renault's done it. Flavio and Fernando. It's happened again.
All I've got written down is Yuki's the new Seb making his own engineering calls and going, no, the wheel is not on. Something's wrong.
Wheel not fitted. Good.
So I don't think it was the wheel in the end. So the engineers were technically correct, but he was like, there's something wrong. They're like, nah, keep going. And he's like, no, something's wrong. I also think when he pulled the car over, he started to take off his seatbelt,
Yeah.
which he denied because that's you get in trouble for that. So in the post race, they're like, so why were they redoing your seatbelt? He's like, oh, it just got loose. It's like, nah, mate, you turned the car off, you were getting out, and they're like, no, get going again. So you're like, oh, I can't really put that back on myself.
Yeah.
Hence why he had to come in and get that redone.
That was a
Love that.
complete disaster.
Oh,
Complete disaster.
It was.
For someone who's not contracted for that seat next year.
He'll be there.
Odd. Yeah. Odd. It's odd.
you could see Tost on the pit wall losing his mind, like, why aren't you going?
Yeah.
But he's like, there's clearly something wrong here. Like, and Jensen was like, the driver knows more than whatever your computers are telling you. You should probably trust the guy out there who's in tune with this like machine that's highly crafted, obviously, but like they know the most subtle thing is changed. They don't need computers and sensors to tell them that there's something wrong.
Super bizarre. What about Gasly this weekend?
Average at best.
You would say that if he won. Scrappy is probably the word I would say.
Did he finish in the points? No. Shit. Average at best.
Hey, James, so when we're doing this podcast in the
Literally
future, we
came
should just
11th.
start
That's
at
as
10th.
close to average
Just
as
ignore
you
everyone
probably-
else because it doesn't matter. If you
We
didn't
don't
get a
wanna talk
point,
about
I don't care.
We're not talking about Oscar Piastri next year.
Nah.
We're not talking about anyone below 10th. That's it. No one
If you
cares.
come below 10th, Campy doesn't care.
No. What I'm saying is he was average at best. And there's 20 people on the grid and he came 11th. He only had one more place up the grid to literally be average in P10. My whipping boy. Whipping boy. Came 11th. He
Some
was
of your best
out.
work, Zeke.
He was he's coming 11th. He's out of the points. So he's average at best.
It
All
makes
right?
me want to have like a steak and like throw some peanut shells on the ground or something. I just feel like I'm in a saloon.
That one.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was
bit
that
of
restaurant back in the day?
Lone Star.
Oh, that's the vibe I'm getting right there.
This isn't sponsored by Lone Star, but now, and I
Can it
equivalently, it should be. And then I want to go to Sizzler for some cheesy garlic bread shortly thereafter. That's a box of neutrals reference.
Off the rails.
Let's talk about Aston Martin. If we had some beers, Zeke, it would be great. Aston Martin, Seb Vettel, 14th, had some little battles with Mick Schumacher. It wasn't like Spa. It wasn't like last weekend in terms of a showing for him. And Lance Stroll, it came out, he was the one who went off in front of Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo in qualifying, which caused the dust on track fiasco.
Was average this weekend.
When is he not?
Yeah.
Well, he finished 10th, didn't he?
But he just
did.
stayed out of trouble. That's what you said, 10 10th is
literally
averages.
average. Yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't finished high this year either. 10th is his best finishing position all year.
I look forward to being fact checked on that.
I hope you're wrong and he came 9th
I
once.
said on the broadcast.
I hope he technically finished on track 10th and there was a penalty or something afterwards. He got 9th and you're wrong.
Look at this guy. This is a great pod. This is the best podcast we've ever done.
The people will talk and they might disagree.
Mate, we should be starting again after this one.
No, the whole thing. Let's move swiftly on then, because Aston Martin was a bit of a
Nothing to report.
nothing
really.
to report. McLaren, one of the drivers, there was nothing to report. The other one, he was having some battles at least towards the front. In Lando Norris, managed to get some good defending done. It has to be said, and fair to him for that. And Danny Rick, he did like 7 pit stops. It feels like
It felt like that, didn't it?
Oh, what a nightmare.
I think Campy nailed it. That was just a terrible strategy from the start. If you're starting back where you were, why were you not trying something different?
When he was behind Alpine, he had his first pit stop, and then he came out right behind Seb Vettel. So he pitted to cover off Seb, who was behind him. Then that started a whole chain of events that was just an absolute shambles. I think his second and third pit stop. What happened when Hamilton passed Perez and Vettel came out in front of them and they lost heaps of time? That happened to Danny Rick twice on his exits. One time it was Bottas and the other time it was someone else. Look, he just had a dud race, but that car and Danny Rick in that car had no pace. They couldn't follow. It was a bit like last week. Would get within 2 tenths and then couldn't do anything. The car's shit under braking, shit down a straight. Crap with DRS, so I'll stop swimming for you, Jim.
shit's fine. You can say shit.
McLaren is just an absolute shambles, and when Danny Rick's driving, he can't do anything at the moment. He's just sitting there in a fighter jet that's got no ammo.
Write that one down.
Thank you so much. It's so hard to watch. You and I have said this. Freya and I have said this. You and I have said this individually and then together as a group, and Manus agrees as well. Do you agree, Zeke?
You and I have also said that just earlier.
Zeke's always said that, actually.
That we're hard to watch. But it is like genuinely, and I said this on Sunday, I have been incredibly sad about everything that's happened. Now, has he done an Alonso and a Mark Webber in terms of making poor choices in his career? Yes. Is the commentary fair right now about him being washed? No. His
way.
car is absolutely woeful. And, Lando's performing better in it. Obviously. That's fine. I'm not saying that Lando's not as good a driver as Daniel. He's just better at driving this car than Daniel is, and that's fine.
2 different cars.
If we put them both in a Red Bull and talk about history and everything else. Anyway, whatever. I was very sad. But I think one of the things that is sort of keeping me happy is watching how much happy he seems. Now, DR was pretty down in the dumps around Hungary because that's when he was told. Now, I think he's coming to some peace with this. We have to accept, I think, or start accepting that Daniel Ricciardo's not driving next year. And he might do a Mika Hakkinen sabbatical, which is, we're still waiting for Mika to come back. So maybe Alpine's going to sign Mika Hakkinen. But I think we need to start preparing that. And you know what? That's okay because Daniel looks at least a little bit happier. We've still got Austin. We've got Suzuka on this calendar. So he at least is going to see out the rest of this year, the last couple of races that we've got. Monza, obviously some good memories there. Singapore, outstanding track. Suzuka, which is going to be great. We're going back to Austin, which we're going to love, and we're going to try and get there next year. And then you've got Mexico, Brazil, and then Abu Dhabi, which no one cares about. But for the previous couple of races, that's a really, if this is his last time in Formula One ever, it bloody hurts me to say that. Don't get me wrong, listener. I want him to continue to race. But we need to accept that's the case. Now, that's fine, right? We've got 6 really cool tracks that he gets to have some fun around. Let's just give him...
And a piece of shit car.
A piece of shit car.
Shit team behind him.
Which is why I got...
Piece of shit CEO.
Which is why I got Michael Laminato to...
Show some bloody respect.
I just sent him a message like, hey, mate, can you just voice note record me? Show some respect. He's like, why? And it doesn't matter. I said, we need to show
some bloody respect
to Daniel Ricciardo's last couple of races. And, I get people's differing opinions on it. But DR, he needs to do whatever is going to make him happy. And if that's not racing next year, that's fine. We've got Oscar in. It's going to be outstanding to have an Australian, hopefully 2, as you said, at the very top of it. But McLaren need to lift and give him something. Just do strategy. Like, if the car's a piece of shit, which it clearly is, you guys don't know how to design a car, do strategy.
I don't have faith, unfortunately. I
Neither
feel like
do
it's
I.
going to be like when everyone announces mid-season, like we've seen in the past, that the car just stops developing, the resources stop coming to that second driver, and they all go to Lando, and this car is never going to progress. It's going to remain exactly where it was. No more upgrades are coming for Daniel for the rest of the season. Like, they're not going to give him a new power unit. Why didn't they give him a new power unit when he was already
So true.
sacrificed? Like, this is a
So
perfect
true.
opportunity to do that, add more parts to the pool. They're not going to do that because why would they put resources into a driver that's exiting, give him IP, all these kind of things? They're just going to turn off the tap basically to his resource, and he's going to fend for himself. And hopefully enough people like him on his side of the garage to help him do good things for the rest of the season. That's all we can hope for.
Yeah, one of the things that I know for certain is there are a lot of people inside the business that aren't the C-suite of McLaren who bloody love this guy, as they should. And, I think the fact that, he's got his manager Blake and Italiano there as well, who will help him sift through the bullshit to keep him focused. But it is absolutely not the way that he or anyone would have expected his departure from Formula One, which is incredibly sad because there is just no hope in hell of him getting anywhere near a podium at all for the rest of the season.
See, Lando hinted that his quality performance wasn't that good because of some external pressures because of his missus. Broken up with his missus this week.
No, I
He
didn't
said
see
in
that.
an interview. I was like, bloody hell. she
Didn't know he
must
had a
be-
missus.
I was like, mate, you're racing Formula One.
He's like 12. How old can she be?
And now you tell me that, like, your qualifying performances like got to do with the relationship with missus. She must be the hottest chick in the world if that's what you're thinking about while you're driving a Formula One car. What are you doing? You absolute muppet.
He might mean he's prepped, like he's not getting sleep. Like, doesn't mean you're thinking about it while you're driving a car.
Oh, toughen up. Don't even say that. Oh, squid. My whipping boy.
Again, let's move swiftly on from a rubbish team to a team that doesn't know how to keep drivers. Alpine, Fernando Alonso he is, I know I keep saying that he's driving the best of his career. He is, in my opinion, driving the best of his career in a car that is not a top winning car. Some of the battles and where he sticks that thing, he's no business finding grip on some of these lines, and he's still like, hello, and it's like genuinely awesome to see.
Yeah, Alpine's in a little purple patch at the moment, a bit reminiscent of the 2019 with Danny Rick and that Renault. Just before McLaren took over them in the Constructors' Championship, right towards the end, they had this 7 or 8 race period where Danny Rick got 3 podiums, Ocon got 1, 2, and the car was lightning quick. And it was great on tyres, and it came home in races a bit like the Mercedes is at the moment, just came home really strong. So, yeah, it shouldn't surprise us that they've got that car back to performing that way and showing some of those characteristics with Fernando Alonso. So, I don't think Ocon, what about Ocon? Where's he at for you boys? Like, he's driving quick and he puts himself in the right positions, but he's no Fernando, is he?
The annoying thing is sorry to interrupt you, the annoying thing is he's ahead of Fernando in the point standing, is 66 to 59. But that means nothing because of the previous bad luck that Fernando's had and some issues with the car. So I think in terms of driving, Ocon has always been maybe a C+.
Yeah.
Like the car is good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at,
you put Gasly in a good car last year and he got good results.
yeah, exactly. But that's because he's an excellent driver.
He is an excellent driver.
And he's going to be an
Ocon.
excellent driver next year at Alpine and smash
think
Ocon as well.
The way I would put Ocon, and it's from other sports, but he's an accumulator. He puts together stats. He does all these things. He gets good in basketball. You say good stats, bad team. Basically, you're on a bad team, but you're getting these results. You're not contributing to winning or moving anything forward. You're just kind of accumulating these empty, hollow stats, which is random points when everything goes wrong for someone else. Like, it's not because you're truly great and earned those like Alonso has every point he's got.
So
but
what LeBron does.
Like Michael Jordan used to just accumulate stats and in baseball.
For both of you, also, that was you. Hang on.
I
You had a
started
go
this.
at him yesterday when he wasn't even there about
enough.
hating on LeBron. I had to defend you. LeBron, king.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're just wrong. And Mark knows that he's wrong as well. Just shout out to
Take
you,
that
Mark.
Michael Jordan hat off immediately in the corner.
But I think the point stands.
He's literally wearing one. That's so good.
But the point stands that Ocon is just accumulating stats.
Just plenty of love.
And
Look at this guy. Goodness
derailed
me. What
the
is
whole
what is
podcast.
going on?
I think the point stands that Ocon is accumulating stats and points and
Yep.
all these kind of things, but I don't think he's contributing to winning or moving the team forward or
Yep.
doing any of these things which you'd argue is what Alonso does or like someone like Daniel of the past is doing. Regardless of result, you go, the process is Alonso is the better driver in that team. Ocon just happens to be lucky in the right place, right time and get these gifted results, it seems.
Well, certainly his Hungary win was absolutely right place, right time. He was like qualified
100%.
14th or something. The only reason he was up the grid is because he was behind
But
Valtteri.
you're a race winner now. And
Yes.
do you know what I mean? And we forget all of the like underlying what happened behind that. But he is now a race winner as opposed to everyone else in the grid who's not yet a race winner. You'd argue we're better.
I just don't see him. Well, there's no long-term value in this guy, right? They signed him to 2024. Where does he go after that? I think I was listening to
Formula
Beyond the
E.
Grid. Yeah, I was listening to Beyond the Grid, and I mean, they were talking. Tom Clarkson interviewed Esteban again, and he was like, I'm committed to staying with Renault Alpine because I think we've got something we can work together. I was like, mate, you're only saying that because you got literally nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Like this is it. I mean, and it's what we're saying. It's a shame for Daniel because quite clearly Esteban will be whoever drives alongside him next year. And at the moment, could be Gasly, it could be Daniel Rick, it could be whoever. Anyone else really in the mix. Even Mick Schumacher could be someone to show him up. Like in my mind, Fernando is.
I feel like anyone who goes into that C is likely to show him up, unfortunately. He's always going to be a B driver in a team. I don't see him ever as the one setting the tasks or like really driving the direction of how a car is set up and kind of developed. It's going to be him kind of going, okay, cool,
Yeah.
I'll just adapt to whatever and just poodle around and like hopefully get some points occasionally.
Did Cyril sign him?
Yeah, it
The
would have been.
extension.
No.
It was the new guy coming in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Mike?
Mike?
It was about
How long?
17. No, then Mike
It
Craig's
was
at Aston
after
Martin.
3 races last year.
Yeah, so whoever was it, Laurent Rossi was the team
I don't know if
director,
Cyril-
team
Interim
principal?
1 year.
Oh, I don't know. That was a very confusing. No, because Cyril didn't come into the Alpine outfit at all. Don't forget.
no,
So he
that's right.
left Renault when Daniel did.
It was
too.
like 3 people shared the role, wasn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, it
They
was
had this
many
weird
people.
hybrid thing.
So, but that's the thing. Like, I get the French
Good.
thing, right? And I get the Gasly going there as well. But I still don't understand why. I mean, when they changed it to Alpine, it was because they weren't selling a lot of cars, and Renault was. And we talked about this a while ago. Daniel Rick also left Renault because there was rumblings about them not staying in Formula One as a team.
He just wanted a better daily, probably.
Yeah, well, who can blame him? You don't want to tweet anyway. But like McGann,
Renault Twingo.
yeah, Twingo or McGann Cup RS. That's still not very exciting. But for me, now that it's all sort of washed out again, surely you go back to the brand of Renault because you sell more Renaults. I don't think I've seen any A110s anywhere.
No.
Ever.
This is a Euro thing. Do we even have them in Australia?
it'd
Yeah,
be-
we do have them in Australia. And look, fair enough. They're not.
There might
not-
be 3 of them.
There might be. I think Oscar drove one this year at the Grand Prix. Maybe that was shipped in, but who knows? But like, I'm in London, right? I'm at the high street where all of the cool cars are sitting. There is no Alpines anywhere to be seen at all.
I can't even tell you what they are. What do they even look like? I'm
They're
Googling it
just
now.
like war control versions of like a Commodore. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this
It's just
next
very bizarre.
finishing school of a car. It's
Anyway,
this
so
weird hybrid.
why not go back to Renault and actually be a brand that you can sell more stuff with?
Is
anyway,
that what it is? Looks like an ugly version of a Porsche.
yeah, it looks a bit
not
odd,
wrong.
doesn't it?
That is horrible.
Mm.
I wouldn't be driving around that if I was driving
Next week
Alpine.
on Campy's Classic Car Reviews.
Oh, I'd tune in actually.
Oh, look at my troopy. It's always just exclusively his troopy that's not in
try
the
this
country
in
yet.
the off-season, Campy. We'll
Just
just
car reviews.
we'll show you some cars.
Anyway,
and see what
it's
you
very
think.
odd. I know we've digressed significantly, but it's just very odd to me that Alpine is like that. So I understand that you sign a French driver to a French team, but when the other drivers are in the mix right now, surely you'd be looking at going, cool, well, we should have kept Alonso on a 2-year deal and we should have brought in Piastri. We said that earlier in the season. It would have been good for everyone. Instead, now they've got either of them.
I don't know why you wouldn't have committed to Oscar when he won F2 just about. Like that early is like, how soon can we get this guy?
But if that had happened, where would Danny Rick be next year?
We would stay in McLaren.
Do we want that though?
No, I agree with okay. Oh, good
There's
point.
your logic.
Damn.
Right.
Mm.
All right.
Or none of.
All right, let's agree to not talk about where Danny Rick's going next year until it's actually announced.
You brought it up, not me.
All right,
You did.
sorry. Well, I'm in the bin. I'm putting myself in the
Candy's
bin.
beard.
I think
Also,
that's,
this hasn't been acknowledged yet. Campy does not have a beanie on.
that's true.
Is this the first time you've ever been on camera of some kind?
What does it look like?
So it probably looks like I'm bald.
Goodness me. And it's actually a very big shot of your head too.
Yeah.
You're ahead of Campy. You're ahead of Tommy. Hang on. Just going to put myself in the bin. Should we keep talking about
Anyway.
F1? Ferrari. They don't know how to be a Formula One team. At a 12.6, was it, from memory, second stop for Carlos Sainz?
12.6.
Stationary plus the pit lane. Yeah.
Jeez. He
Got a tyre.
forgot a tyre. He got a penalty. Ferrari got a penalty for releasing him into Alonso's way, and Alonso absolutely could have put some
Yeah,
brake
I know.
pressure on, and he was like,
Nah.
nope, yeet. And again, good front wings. Alonso knows from last weekend that the front wings work pretty well, so he could just keep driving at signs. That was very bizarre. It was a very tight pit lane, to be fair to Carlos.
Yeah.
But Ferrari stuffed that up.
Well, and also not braking enough under yellows, potentially. He got another
We got a penalty, yeah, and a 5-second penalty for that, overtaking Esteban Ocon and then overtaking him again, and then gave the position back. But it was so odd. I don't
That
know.
one was harsh, wasn't it?
It was a weird location, but unfortunately, it's up on your dash. And you
Well,
can see it
yeah,
early
the yellow
enough.
flag
The
is a dash.
was on your dash.
I think when it comes to safety and the fact that VB literally had nowhere to go,
Yeah.
as in like out of the car, I understand that. I think there's some silly penalties that have been handled out of the last
It was
couple of
the
years.
next lap that was a problem for me, where Alonso, Carlos, and Ocon all locked up going into that turn. I was just like, what?
That was
Because
odd.
the
It was a
safety car was called real late. Why wasn't that an instant safety car? The guy is stuck on the straight. I was going to say this throughout. The Sonoda one and this one should have been safety cars straight away. There was no way those cars were going to restart in their own energy or be recovered without having to have a safety car. It's idiotic. Just do it straight away.
They were flying into turn one way quicker than they should
Yeah.
have been, and then they braked and locked up. It was odd.
Alonso did, yeah.
That was, but he had to react to
No, I
what was
agree,
happening.
yeah.
And it wasn't just because they were going too fast, regardless of whether the safety car was coming out. That was yellows. So, anyway, we can move on. I just would have put Norris further up the grid. It's not what we want to see.
He ended up finishing 8th, but he crossed line in 5th from memory.
yeah.
So, again, it's just massive disappointment. He was so flat on the radio, and I don't blame him. Charles Leclerc at least finished in 3rd. But that was only because
Despite
of Lewis's
Yeah.
poor strategy call from Mercedes' point of view. I guess it was good for him to have a podium, but it's like the gap is still so significant between him and Max. There's no way that anyone else is winning this World Championship unless something really happens in the next 2 or 3 races. Let's talk about Mercedes. This call by Russell.
Mate, they had the win. They had that. If that race had played out with no incidents, they had the win in the bag. There's no way Max would have pitted and come through and passed them on track after making up about a 10-second deficit to them. Mercedes, all credit. That car is quick in the second half of a race. And they gambled last night. They went on the one stop. I mean, Lewis whinged. Afterwards, he was pretty good. He whinged when he's in the car. He said, you don't know how pissed off I am. I don't like that. Tie that up, Lewis. But what the flow-on effect, the problem is when you take a risk by taking a one stop, you put yourself in a position of jeopardy so that if a safety car or a virtual or something comes out, you run the risk that someone can, pit behind you, get on fresher tyres and the gap be different, or you pit where you would have had the lead, you pit and you come out behind. That's just the reality of the play. But I think we're going to see Mercedes win 2 or 3 races on the way home this year. And they've got genuine pace in that car. I don't think they should have pitted George Russell. I think if they really wanted to win, they would have had a buffer between Max Verstappen and Lewis. I think Max would have still won the race either way if they had done that. But it's just poor management from Mercedes when they should be fighting for wins, not just podiums.
Yeah, and just where Lewis restarted as well, just absolutely handed
Stupid,
Max
yeah.
that toe.
I had a few things. I think I disagree with Campy. I think Max still would have won because he only did that second pit stop when he did to cover off because there was a full pit stop gap. He would have waited longer, stretched those tyres out. They would have been fresher at the end. He would have built up more time.
You're in the bin. He was committed to a two-stop.
He was, but not at that point.
He had to pit a second time.
He did, but not then. He was going to wait longer. The fact that he went straight the lap after was only because the Mercedes did. And there was that time. He had a full pit stop window to come out front again. That's the only reason he did it. He would have extended. So he pitted.
Oh, you're talking about after the initial incident.
What do you mean? The
Yuki.
incident happened in the race we watched, mate. There's no,
You're
like,
talking about
what if
after.
there was no incident?
Before the Yuki thing, the Yuki Tsunoda thing, it was Hamilton was going all the way
Imagine
up
if there was
home
no
on those
sand
cars.
on the track or it rained. Like, let's just throw out some more hypotheticals, Campy, that didn't happen.
No,
Thanks so much for listening. That's the podcast.
yeah.
Regardless, I think
you're a muppet. Think
you
about what
can't
you
say
just
if
said.
something didn't happen that happened.
No, but we're saying, well, my point was, up until that Yuki Tsunoda incident, Mercedes had that 1-2 in the bag. And it was, they were going on a one stop. Max had committed to a two stop. He had a 10-second lead over Hamilton. Hamilton was gaining on him by half a second a lap. Max had to pit again, and he would have been 10 seconds behind with 25 laps to do. There's no way that was going to win until the Yuki Tsunoda and the Valtteri Bottas thing incidents happened. There was no way Max had that win doing a two-stop.
But I'm
against
saying
Mercedes
it's
one-stop.
disingenuous because everything changed because Mercedes went early, so Max went early. So everything's out regardless.
No,
I think
Mercedes went late because they did a one-stop.
yeah, but they went for the second one, which made Max go, I can go again as well and still cover you off.
Yeah, but after they did that because of the
Anyway.
incident. You're missing what I'm saying.
I think
Don't
that
know
the
what you're
main
talking about.
You're both in the bin.
the main point I wanted to make was to hear Lewis cracking it over the radio. Let's flip this back to VB days. If VB was in the situation in front and Lewis was behind in third, he would 1,000% ask for soft tyres to do exactly what Russell did.
Yeah.
Which is just the
But
most
Lewis
hypocritical
wouldn't
thing
have
I've
been
ever heard.
behind
'Cause
Bottas.
he would always make
He
that
was
call
always
to
in
go
front
for
of
the
him.
win.
If Bottas had also said that too, he would have been told no.
Exactly. So Bottas would have been told no. But if the roles were reversed, Lewis would 1,000%
Yeah, I
ask for
agree.
those tyres to make that exact same call that Russell did. He just doesn't like that it happened to him and he was hung out to dry, which I get. And also, like, I think it was in the cool down. We saw all three of the podium drivers talking. They're like, no chance Lewis had that on the restart.
Yeah.
They're like, you cannot get those tyres going when they're cool after a cool down lap. He was a sitting duck and they all agreed like instantaneously. So they knew what they were doing.
Max had to win. He was my mega driver for the week in fantasy. So that was actually a good call by me when I remembered that I had to do something with that fantasy team. Let's talk about Red Bull because Verstappen was always going to win that camp. I don't know what the hell you're thinking about. No, I'm kidding. But he was dominant in the majority of the race. Yeah. But strategy-wise, not sure Red Bull had it. If you delete the incidents that happened, the Mercedes strategy was pretty solid.
Was going to get him a win.
And as you were saying, the car is performing a lot better on lower fuel than other cars, I think, which is where it's finding its pace in the second half of the race. Yeah. So unlike the Ferrari, who burnt through its tyres like that with Carlos, it seemed.
Interesting for me, though, is that Lewis only lost 10 seconds to Max in that first stint. You know, because he was stuck behind Carlos. He had the pace to keep up with the three of them in the first part of that race, which is telling. We haven't seen Mercedes do that all year.
Yeah, they've unlocked something, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which is good. We want a bit of fight back towards the front. And yeah, I think George was great. Whatever.
Made the right call.
Yeah.
He made the right call for George. And, like, that's what you've got to do. End of the day, yes, it's a team, but also it's an individual sport most of the time. We
Lewis
talk about
almost
the
took him
Drivers'
out too.
Championship, not the Constructors. No one cares.
Lewis almost took him out on the main straight too. It was a weird sort of like dummy thing. I was cool.
Yeah, you saw Lewis, you saw George get off the gas.
It was
he had to when he was pulling past.
interesting to see. But this is the thing though, right? I think for Mercedes, they're kind of lucked out by the fact that they've got two very good drivers in their car. Now, I don't know what's going on with Sergio Perez, but it doesn't feel like he's at that same level as what he was at Monaco. Do you want to just take your phone off
be
the
a fun
table?
one.
Yeah. No.
Definitely a fun. No, I think you're right. I think he's not as sharp as he was tail end of like last season and the start of this season.
I just feel like like Mercedes have got 2 drivers that are outstanding, right? And they're just smashing it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at the moment, Red Bull isn't. If you need to take your phone call, Campy, go take your phone call. We'll keep talking.
She's rang 3 times now, so.
All right, let's do.
Still a fine.
It is a fine. I'm
Probably a
going to
penalty.
keep going because we're going to do this part of the podcast. I couldn't hear a single thing that was being said behind that.
The whole table was vibrating in case you're wondering what's going on.
Oh, etiquette, people. Look, thank you to you if you've changed your fantasy team name ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix. All 157 of you. Tommy T, I have gone through and found my favorite names ahead of recording this. And I tell you what, again, there's a lot of you who are changing your names, and I think it's fantastic. Also, can someone tell Campy you don't need to shout to be on the telephone? He's on a completely different level from where we currently are.
Three rooms away.
I can feel him, feel his voice. Okay, here we go. Ferrari versus Tyre, Gemma C. Zach Brown is lying. See you next Tuesday. See you in the NT. And that's a Northern Territory, I should say. See you in the NT. It's a great advertising campaign. Get your head out of the gutter, guys. Rory N, well done. Orange Haze, all in my brain. Paul W. Seb's skinny headband. Yeah, he loved a bit of a skinny headband.
I used to
this
rock
weekend?
that when I was playing basketball. Back in the day, I had long hair. Yeah, I did.
Did you? Is that
They were
also when you were
Nike,
in your
obviously.
metal band as well?
Nah.
Nah.
I didn't have long hair when I was playing in the band.
Oh,
Odd.
I feel that's just
Did it
should have
backwards.
been a prerequisite.
I
Yeah.
know.
Also, I enjoyed when Rachel Brooks was talking to George Russell and they were doing the walk, and Seb was just like, "Oh, sorry, you are recording something." Very funny. Mambo number 5, McLaren's idea of a tyre strategy. Haley H. Where did I leave my wheel gun? Question. Nathan D. Circuit Zant Verstappen. Daniel B. Stroop waffles are faster than a McLaren. Daniel T. Yes, good point. Zach Brand's weird fetish for Australians. Michael S. It's flares out and away we smoke. LBS. Land of the long orange cloud. Samuel
Good.
R. I love that a lot. Second best red lights of the Netherlands. Kelly W. Very good. Shamdo Norris, Hillary, Crofty needs to Stroop waffling on, Thomas B, and Orange Flares, Cly Max, Jane W. Well done to you, Claire R. Claire, you also need to update your team name. Team 1 is...
I rate that. I hope that wins.
327 points.
That's a big one.
That's a huge haul. Gemma C, Ferrari versus Tyre from Australia on 293 points, and on the curbs, Timo A from Ireland, 284 points. I was 4th, annoyingly. VB stuffed
I go 4th every week.
Stuffed my team. Anyway, well, lads, that is our review podcast of the Dutch Grand Prix. Next week, we are going to Monza, which is going to be outstanding. Now, I'm not going to be here in the studio, so a shout out to anyone who's in London who listens to this podcast. If there's anywhere good to watch the race in London, please let me know. It would be good to catch up with some of you and watch that Grand
Hopefully you can
Prix.
tune into Channel 4.
Just literally anything that's... No, I can't. It has to be Sky
Watch
F1.
it at F1 HQ.
No,
Oh.
because they don't show it at F1 HQ because they're all at the racetrack, Campy. Anyway, that is it for this week. So, yes, I'll be in London for the next couple of weeks, but these guys, these beautiful human beings, will be in the studio. Don't forget.
Are you
that
zooming in?
Yep, on
Is Zeke
Friday.
in charge while you're away?
Yes.
Sure.
Ferrari.
like school, yeah.
Ferrari is not in charge.
I just
Freyers.
feel like we've had a substitute teacher walk in the classroom.
No, it will be good for Zeke.
There will be Freya's Friday free practice, whatever
That needs
she's
a name
decided.
change,
I think she's decided something. I'll let her talk about it. But that's on Friday. You can watch that and listen to it, of course, on all the platforms. And Campy's Corner with some excellent branding.
Name. Give me some ideas.
yours is names,
yours is
mate.
name.
Shut up.
You don't get it. That's it. No,
Done the graphics.
it's
I'm not
graphics are
redoing
done.
both.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it. Thank you.
The bin was
The bin was great.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that yet, go onto our YouTube channel to watch it. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you want to support the show, don't forget you can become a patron on our Patreon. Link is in the description below. You can grab some merchandise or subscribe to us on YouTube. Costs you absolutely nothing. We need to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. Zeke, massive thank you to you for producing this. Boys, thank you to you. And we will see you at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza.
I don't know. this Honda.
Every time, every podcast, without fail, you'll be like, "Let's try to set this up for half an hour." You're like, don't even need it.
Don't even need it.
You know, mate.
All right, here we go. Everyone's ready.